Hello Buttercups, welcome back to my channel. Today's book review is the nonfiction book, The Encyclopedia of the Weird and Wonderful by Milo Rossi. Now he is a YouTuber, also a very well-known archaeologist, TikToker, but I have no clue about that because I'm not on TikTok. But that's what I've heard around the street, as in Goodreads and the YouTube comments of Milo's YouTube channel. So I just threw that in there. If you're not on YouTube that much, but you're really into TikTok, he's apparently very big on there and he just keeps on climbing. But of course, because he is one of those rare archaeologists, and maybe because it's his age, he's younger, where he can pull you in with kind of simple talk, trying to get people excited and not just talking to other archaeologists and scholars where there's like a lot of jargon and you don't know really what they're talking about because they're not going to explain it to you because you should know already. No, that's not Milo. And I found his archaeology / environmental scientist YouTube channel because of the recommended section, which is amazing because usually YouTube does not recommend me good videos. I guess because I watch too much stuff of across the board of just random things that it just doesn't understand, and I get it. But this time it was correct, and I then binged all of Milo's videos. So when I heard that he has a book, or had a book coming out, this was like months ago, I pre-ordered it, then it arrived October 4th or 5th or whatever it was, and then I was saving it for Nonfiction November, and here we are. It was my first Nonfiction November read for 2023, and I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. And what's different is it's shorter than most encyclopedias, and it's about, as the title says, weird and wonderful everyday life, fun facts and tidbits that have been found and excavated by archaeologists throughout the years. We start with birth and children and end with death, ceremonies, and burials. It's basically, we start with tidbits from babies and childhood all the way to the lifespan, and then we end with burials and tombs and all of that stuff, right? I wanted a bit more on the burials, but also I think Milo was going for tombs and burials that not many people have heard about, and that's kind of the theme. I did know quite a few of them, but there were some that I had no idea, so I love to learn new things, and I'm really into archaeology. Not so much that I would become an archaeologist, but you know, there's different levels, right? Okay, but I appreciate him wanting to talk about little known tidbits and facts and archaeology sites that also are on theme with getting to know everyday life of the past, which that's what fascinates me the most. I like big things like World War II or the American Revolutionary War or Renaissance art, very big things. But like, what is a woman with 5 children in Boston, Massachusetts during the height of the American Revolutionary War? What is her everyday life look like? That's what's fascinating to me. Weird and wonderful, actually. Just randomly weird and wonderful everyday life tidbits. That's why I was really interested and still interested in this nonfiction book. Though, then again, he did mention King Tut's tomb, but I think that it's such a huge find and it's so fascinating, and there's just like so much information on King Tut where it would be kind of weird if you didn't mention it. But mainly it's stuff that you wouldn't necessarily know about unless you dig deep into archaeology as like an amateur, like kind of like me, or that you are actually archaeologist or in grad school to become an archaeologist. My favorite chapters are the early years, eat drink, and be merry, fashion and beauty, education and work, and memento mori. What drew me into the book was the piece on writing on the walls. It's the first chapter. And as what we know of as France now, there were thin snaking lines the size of a child's finger, known as flutings, and those are created by basically children running their fingers through a slippery surface, usually soft clay, and then it, for whatever reason, in this particular cave and in this particular case in France, it solidified. Now, these children doing the flutings in this cave and from 15,000 years ago, damn, that's what blows my mind. Like the small stuff, right? They were doing basically their own version of finger painting, but the paint, there was no paint. It's just very soft clay during maybe a specific time in the summer or the spring or whatever, when it was hot and the clay in this particular cave was soft, and you can see it, it's just snaking lines all throughout this cave that solidified. And pretty sure that they lived in cave, or maybe they didn't live in the cave, but maybe they lived nearby and they were just having a fun time. Either way, I love it. I'm pulled in. You hooked me. That's just adorable. Like, I don't know. It's just so cute. Now, I know a lot of the info in the sections play and leisure and love and sexuality. So those two chapters weren't that exciting. I think maybe I learned like one or two things from each of those sections. So I'm kind of just gonna gloss over that. Like, my mind was not blown. In the section fashion and beauty, I love the part about I love gold, referring to Tomb 43 found along the Black Sea. A man was buried with a shitload of gold, and as Milo refers to him as Papa Gold, for good reason, because he was buried with more gold than has been ever found so far. For his time period, good for him, I guess. Good for you, Papa Bling. But like, also, you're hoarding all the damn gold for your era. I don't know. That was just hilarious to me. And then also the part where there was a gold sheaf buried with him for his pee-pee. Okay, like, that's also really, that's weird and that's random. And you know what? That is an interesting tidbit that I accept with a big laugh. I read that the first time, I had to read it again, and then I laughed for a good minute. But you know what? That brought me joy, and that probably brings other people joy. Because I'm like, really, you chose that to be buried with you? Okay, Papa Bling. Interesting choice. I mean, the choice to be buried with so much gold that there has never been an excavation of anything, not just a burial tomb, whatever, just like in general for his time period, they can't find another area, site, tomb, whatever with that much gold, is also mind-blowing. But okay, we're gonna move on. From the chapter Work and Education, we find the first example of the red pen, which I thought was fascinating. And everyone knows what that is, I hope. But if not, your teacher or professor used a red pen to point out your mistakes. You know that? Right. I remember a few professors in college, they either used purple or green. And I'm like, okay, let's just stay with the tradition of the red pen, because the first instance of this red pen fixer-upper, is from Egypt's Middle Kingdom. This student was tasked with practicing writing in the formal style, and he messed up a few times. Okay, I mean, it happens. It happens, right? Happens to the best of us. No matter if we're writing formally or whatever, there's going to be some typos. There's going to be some grammatical and punctuation errors. And you can see that his teacher found those mistakes and he fixed it in red ink on the wooden board, which blows my mind. It is a wooden board, not papyrus. And I'm just trying to like figure out, like, that's a very strong red ink. Like, how did that work out? And that wasn't mentioned. So I don't know how that was put into the board, but maybe it's so strong of a red ink, as well as the black ink that was written on the wooden board, that it's totally fine. And of course it shows up because the archaeologist found it. I forget if that was mentioned where they found it, but they found it, and it was pretty clear. It was pretty clear. I was like, okay, that's fantastic. I love that. You wouldn't think that it would be so far back in our history that the thought of red ink fixing and pointing out errors would be a thing, but it is. That's why I love weird and wonderful tidbits of the past. Another great one is the first bad review from the old Babylonian period, circa 1750 BCE, where someone was promised fine quality ingots, but got bad quality ones. And when the seller says in reply to a messenger to the buyer, take them or leave them. Great, okay? Great. The buyer is angry and threatens to complain and to spread the word that this buyer is bad with a bad review. I love it. Get your ingots, okay? Get those good quality ingots. Spread the word. People need to know. Okay. Lastly, from the chapter of work and education, which left me in awe, confusion, and also laughing my ass off, is the obsession of drawing snails in the margins of documents during the medieval period. Snails fighting knights. Very popular. And no one knows why that was popular, especially just snails in general. But snails fighting knights. I don't know. I have no idea either. Like, were snails that popular? A common animal that they saw so much that they're like, okay, I'm going to put in snails on the margins of my homework as a monk. Like, I don't know. Okay. I do love to see it, though. Also, not just snails and knights fighting snails, or snails fighting knights. I think the snails fighting knights are more interesting, but okay, carrying on. There's also a lot of sexually explicit doodles in the margins of like so many documents. Also some including snails. Okay, I need to read the examples that Milo lists. It's on page 184. Yeah, we're getting specific here, because when I read it, I was like, are y'all okay? I don't think so, but this is also hilarious. Okay. I'm just going to read from the book, page 184. There are countless examples of these outlandish illustrations from countless sources penned by infinite authors. So I think the best way to demonstrate the sheer insanity of some of these drawings is to describe some of his favorites. First one, a bipedal dog playing a legless cat as a bagpipe. 2, a knight wearing only a helmet riding a stick horse. Okay. I don't think I cannot laugh. Okay, I got 2 and I started laughing. Okay. 2 nudists jousting on snails. It's the snails. A woman balancing a pitcher on her head while breastfeeding on a worryingly tall stilts. I don't know if y'all are okay. 2 naked headless men having a melee with a sword and a severed head. That is metal. I want to see that one. Like, so it's a sword, and then another guy has a severed head, like they're doing this. I don't know. I want to see it. I'm going to Google that. A man wearing only a head wrap, simultaneously urinating and defecating in 2 different jars. Nasty. That's nasty. A snail man with a snail shell helmet impaling himself on a sword. Okay. And then lastly, it's Milo's personal favorite. 2 farmers harvesting the fruits of their penis tree. Come on, people. What is that? What is that? Look, okay, at least people were weird. Obviously, the point of this book, people were weird long time ago. Y'all think that people are weird now? I think we've always been weird. I want to Google, or maybe I don't want to Google, all of those because I want to picture what those illustrations on the side of important documents really look like. Okay. We gotta... Well, we don't, or maybe maybe you're laughing your ass off as I am. I need to get it together because we still have points to make. I'm gonna take 5, sorry. There's gonna be a big cut. There's gonna be a cut. Yeah, I'm back. My face is a little red because I laughed for a good 5 minutes. Anyway, from Memento Mori, the last chapter, I love 2 of the archaeological tidbits. The first one is Till Death Do Us Part, and that talks about the lovers of Valdaro. I'll probably pronounce that wrong. Sorry. Found in 2007 in Italy. It's 2 lovers buried together but facing one another. Just very beautiful. A bit random, but maybe not random, but very beautiful. And they are also embraced kind of as much as you can for a body that's deceased. But that just shows how loving this couple was. And yes, for the most part, actually I would say the vast majority of marriage, it was a business transaction. But in rare instances, there was a love match, or maybe it was a business transaction for the marriage, but they were already in love or they fell in love. I just think that's very beautiful. The other tidbit was Death Standing, where 6,000 years ago in Germany, a man, now a skeleton, was buried standing up, or at least in an upright position in his, not a tomb, in his grave. And no one knows why, even archaeologists don't know why this particular man is standing. Maybe a thing in other places, or maybe like in the same area in Germany. Maybe. But this is it's a weird, bizarre situation because they haven't found something like that before. At least from Milo writing this book. Maybe, in a few days they find another one, but as of right now, they have not. And I'm wondering who buried the body and how that happened. Only thought is that they dug a hole, a deep hole, and it's small though, or like it's thin. Just dig a hole like you're digging a well, but not even that big of a well. And then they just lowered the body in. Yeah, I guess that might be the only way. I don't know. Interesting. Just interesting. Weird. Wonderful. We're moving on. Why 4 stars when I just ranted and raved and laughed my ass off of a bunch of the snail illustrations? Well, there are some, I guess, thought bubbles or fun fact bubbles that are in dark orange or dark green. And it does have a white font, but I don't think that the white font is crisp enough, because at times, more than at times, I would say like, unfortunately 70% of the time, it was hard to read that font, or like the white font coloring, especially in the slightly lighter orange, not so much in the dark green, which happened a couple of times, but I don't think that that was the best choice. Because of that, I had to reread quite a few times those fun facts or did you know type of bubbles. For example, let's just go, let's see. Yeah, like this one. This is interesting, right? But in this particular case, the font is fairly small. And can you read that? There is also a glare. And I'm just wondering, maybe make those tidbits a little bigger. And the brightest white that you can find. I don't think that that's the brightest white that they could have chosen. Or if it is, something needs to be worked on with the coloring for those particular pages or little tidbits. As I said in the beginning, I wish there were more tidbits that were included. The book itself is only 235 pages, and that's pretty short for Encyclopedia. You definitely could have pushed it to at least 300, right? And then, speaking about Encyclopedia, that leads me to the bigger point, like a bigger problem overall. There are fictional short stories that were written by Milo himself, and that is included in all of the chapters. And we have a short story in the first chapter about the children. And at first I was like, oh, is this like a fact? Like this story, is it a fact? I don't see how it's a fact. And then I realized, oh, he's just like throwing in fictional short stories about the chapter or about a specific story in a chapter, and I was confused. I had to reread the first story. Like I just didn't get it, and I still don't really get it. I include short stories in an encyclopedia. It's a cool concept, but it's nonfiction. It's an encyclopedia. A little bizarre. You could have taken those out, added even more fun facts and tidbits, and like, you know, the encyclopedia stuff. And that could have been even, you don't need to add more pages, you just included more facts and examples of weird and wonderful things, right? And also, the short stories aren't just at the beginning of each chapter, they're in the beginning, the middle, or the end. And so you might turn a page and halfway through a chapter, and then it starts with a short story. And then I was like, what are we doing? This is not a tidbit of archaeological dig. Oh, we're at the short story again. Okay. And then there was a lot of my brain having to recalibrate nonfiction. Oh, this is now the short story, so this is fiction. Kind of go into that space. Oh, we're back at the nonfiction part. Oh, okay. Chapter 5 or 3 pages in. Okay, we're short story now, but it started with nonfiction. So that's where I was at with that. That's why I could not give it 5 stars, but it's a high 4 stars. I just wanted to let you all know going in about why it was 4 stars, because I think the readability of some of that stuff is a little difficult, not gonna lie. And then also, there are short stories that are fictional that Milo came up with in response to, you know, certain archaeological finds that could throw others off. Because when you say encyclopedia, it's a nonfiction, but then included is short stories that are fiction, of course. So I do recommend it. I loved it. I really loved it, minus, you know, those 3 things, kind of 2 things. Because, like I said, if they took out the short stories and added more of the facts, then you wouldn't necessarily need to make it longer. But I think this is a great first book. This is his first ever book, and you can change things up. And I don't think it ruined the book. It's just like you need to know going in, if you're watching and you're expecting 100% nonfiction encyclopedia. That's not it. It's about, let's say, 235 pages. 85% nonfiction. That's pretty good. I would be way more concerned if it was like 80% or less, because then like you can't really call it an encyclopedia. And I'm sure there are people that are arguing that this can't technically be an encyclopedia because there's the short stories in there. I'll just go with it, right? Because first book of Milo's, and also I think he's trying to draw in a younger crowd, because I know that there are not that many people into archaeology or environmental science that are younger, or maybe they have tried and the jargon, the elitism, the snobbery from a lot of other archaeologists and environmental scientists have pushed them away from those two fields, and Milo's trying to bring them back in. I get it. I can see it. So not a huge fault. It's just 4 out of 5 stars instead of 5 crisp stars, right? Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.